morning. My name is Christian Lesage.
I'm Sue Kennedy.
We're with the Connecticut Orchid Society, and this morning we have a little demonstration for you on repotting. Unfortunately, this year we aren't able to meet in person, so we put together this little virtual demonstration that will hopefully be of some educational benefit to everyone, for beginners and advanced orchid enthusiasts as well. So we're going to start off this morning talking a little bit about what goes into repotting orchids. Most people who have orchids, eventually they outgrow their pots and the media breaks down and you have to get into the nitty-gritty of repotting them. So orchids are epiphytes. Most of them are naturally found in trees. Some are terrestrial. We're just going to focus on the epiphytic type today. So orchids, in their native habitat, have good air circulation. There's a lot of moisture present. So basically, in potting up our plants, we want to recreate and mimic those conditions as best we can. So over here, we have some of the materials that go into repotting. In our little box here, we've got tree fern, we've got Douglas fir bark, New Zealand sphagnum moss, a long-stranded variety, expanded clay aggregates, a phalaenopsis mix here, which is a little bit more gritty, which is charcoal, expanded clay, and some perlite mixed in there. We've got charcoal and straight perlite. And what we're trying to do here is to give the plants good air circulation around the roots. It's very different than what you'd grow a terrestrial plant in your garden or in a pot in your house. You want to make sure that the soil air spaces don't get blocked. So you're using a coarse material, you're trying to mimic the conditions that it's experiencing on the bark of a tree. We've got some other types of mounts here, which are more naturalistic. Some grapevine, basically just a wood slab, some cork, some tree fern, and it really depends on the type of plant you're growing and how you want to display it. Some plants have a habit that's more rhizomatous. That's called a sympodial type of orchid. Other plants are monopodial, like a phalaenopsis, and you want to put those in a pot. So over here, we have different types of pots that you commonly see. We have a clay pot, this little plastic net pot, a clear plastic pot, a catch pot, and a wooden basket. And depending on what type of orchid you're growing will determine what type of pot or mount you use. Then moving on, you're going to need a few tools. So over here we have a little setup. We've got our handy little pot scraper for pulling the plant out of the pot. We've got dental tools, and medical tools, make a really good way to get into cracks and crevices and pull things out. We've got some stakes here for holding the plants up. We've got wire. We've got a knife and a scalpel for any sort of cutting that you need to do. We've got secateurs or pruners. And then at the same time, you want to consider that orchids are prone to a lot of pests and diseases. Some of them, like bacterial and fungal pathogens, can be cured, but viral pathogens are basically, once the plant has it, you can't cure it. So you want to be preventative with that. So it's important to be very sanitary when you're repotting and dividing plants. We've got single-use gloves here. I've got Xerotol, which is basically a hydrogen peroxide type of sanitizer. We've got Physan, and we've got a torch. So you can flame sterilize or you can chemical sterilize your tools, your hands, the work surface. You want to make sure that between plants and while you're working, you're keeping things clean. It's also important for good record keeping that you use proper labeling. We've got here two different methods of labeling, a P-touch and pencil write-on labels. You don't want to use permanent marker because that tends to wear away and with sunlight, and very quickly you'll lose the names. These are just some of the easiest ways to do it. And I guess next we'll go on and give you a little demonstration with some of the most commonly found orchids.